Here we go. It's all kicked off in F1. Red Bull have reportedly rebuffed suggestions that Christian Horner is set to be sacked. Formula One longest-serving team principal has faced increased scrutiny over his position since allegations of misconduct first arose against him on the eve of the 2024 season, which sparked an internal investigation. He was later cleared of any wrongdoing, but a civil war soon broke out inside Red Bull that has since seen several key personnel leave. Now we're going to get stuck into it with Motorsport podcaster F1 Tommo, help us out. A very good morning, you mate. What's going on?
Good morning, Tommo.
Listen, lads, I wish I could tell you more, but you've kind of summarised it perfectly. There's so much going on behind the scenes that we're, on the outside looking in, trying to understand what is really going on at Red Bull Racing. Because like you say, Ali, Christian's been in charge for the longest time since they rebranded from Jaguar. It's so long ago now, and you've got all this internal politics going on. It's really hard to know what is true. These reports that are coming out, these rumours, it's been, just so much speculation since the start of this season.
Tommo, tell me, if he does lose his job, will this finally be the 12-year-old toys at the pram Max Verstappen getting his way?
Look, the best way to think about it is there's kind of two sides to Red Bull Racing. After Dietrich Mateschitz, who was the kind of owner of Red Bull GmbH, he passed away in 2022, and there's been this kind of divide. You've got the tyre ownership, the Uvidjas, who seem to be aligned with Christian, and then you've got the Austrian side, which is aligned with Helmut Marko, and that's more kind of Max Verstappen or Oliver Mintzlaff. Yeah, and You say, Max, I think, honestly, Max just wants to be in the fastest car. I don't think he thinks anything more than that. And where Red Bull's performances have started to curtail, that's where these questions start to arise. There's talks about performance clauses in his contract. If he's not in a certain position in the Drivers' Championship, he might be open to leave. A big rules change next year as well. It's really hard for drivers to know where to make strategically the right decisions. Look at Lewis Hamilton when he went to Mercedes. He picked the perfect moment to go to that team, and he's won 7 world titles. So Max will be wanting to do the same and be wanting to, he's got to focus on himself, and that's all he's doing. Whether that's a Red Bull Racing or not remains to be seen.
Surely there's pressure, though, from Max on Christian Horner and the team, because he's only won 1 out of 5 this season so far, and McLaren are running away with it, aren't they? Piastri and Norris, top 2 at the moment. Piastri's in outstanding form, isn't he? And Max won't like this. He's used to winning every race, isn't he?
Absolutely. I mean, Max made his displeasure with the car. He's never been one to kind of beat around the bush. He's very honest. He's very upfront with how he feels about the machinery underneath, and even the decision making. When Liam Lawson was announced, the swap with him and Yuki Tsunoda, Max was liking posts that were very, very critical of the team, in a quite an indirect way, but making it quite clear as well. He knows what he's doing, Max. He knows his position of power, I guess, and control of that team as well, because they are so reliant on him. Since Daniel Ricciardo departed in 2018, they've not been able to find a suitable second driver for that team who can get anywhere near his performance level. So he holds all the cards at that team, and that's where it's really the drama, lads, is unbelievable. It's just, I wish I could really fly on the wall.
I know, Tom, I was going to ask you a couple of things regarding that then. Does that make the second driver's position at Red Bull maybe not just as lucrative? Because it's like the old, I don't want to follow Alex Ferguson syndrome into that job, because Max is number 1, there's a heck of a lot of pressure on number 2. And my second question would be, mate, surely, like in any sport, team unity is of vital importance, and it doesn't not necessarily guarantee success. However, you're surely going to have a better chance of success if everybody's singing from the same hymn sheet, and it doesn't seem to be the case.
Yeah, look, I think when you look at the history of Formula One, the most successful formula is to have a number 1 and a number 2 driver. You look at Michael Schumacher when he dominated the sport for years, when Lewis Hamilton was winning all the time. Valtteri Bottas was there as a teammate, as a consistent figure, but never close enough to challenge Lewis for those titles. And we're seeing a bit of a McLaren this year with Norris and Piastri. They are very close on performance, and that could become a bit of a problem. We saw McLaren lose out on the driver's title in 2007 because Lewis and Fernando Alonso were, clashing so much that Raikkonen came through and took the title. So having Max as the number 1 driver isn't necessarily a bad thing, but you have to accept the downside is that, if performance starts to dry up, if Max starts to maybe look elsewhere, he's been linked with Mercedes and Aston Martin, those two teams most kind of primarily, you leave yourself open to a driver then having too much control, and then if he does leave, you're kind of up a creek without a paddle, right? And going into the new rules next year, you've got to kind of start again and again, where they've not had a second driver who's been anywhere near Max, and no one that they can reliably be like, right, we can bank on this guy for the future. It puts Christian's, I think, future in question, where you haven't been able to find that. You know, they've got two teams, Red Bull. Remember, they own 20% of the grids, and they still, with 4 seats. You know, most teams have 2. They've got 4, and they've still not been able to find anyone who can pick up that legacy from Max.
It's a strange one, Tom, because we're talking about it there, and I'm just about to contradict myself about the value of the team. And you spoke about the potential problems ahead involving maybe Norris and Piastri. However, see, for an F1 fan like myself, I actually quite enjoy that, mate.
Yes.
I enjoy the little bit of niggle between drivers, even drivers within teams. I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing for the sport. It might be a bad thing for the team, but I don't think it's a bad thing for the sport.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more. I think McLaren, their approach, Zach Brown has always said, you know, the McLaren way is to not have a number one driver and to back them both, which is admirable, maybe a bit naive, but from a fan point of view, I love it, because this is what we want to see. We want to see. I mean, when you look at the early Mercedes dominance years, where Lewis and Nico Rosberg were miles ahead, but they were fighting each other, so it gave us something there. Even though you only had one dominant team, at least you had the drivers fighting one another. Now, obviously, with Norris and Piastri, you know, Norris definitely had the edge over Piastri last year. Oscar's had a blinding start to the season, and it's we've got a long way to go. I'm very, very excited to see how that one pans out, because Oscar seems like he's a stone cold killer. That kid, he's got the head, he's got the mentality. No, he does not. Not
what about
at all. So
talking about teammates? What about Ferrari? The recent Grand Prix when I was watching, Lewis Hamilton had to let Leclerc go past him, didn't he? And then later on in the race, I think there was another car coming behind him, and Lewis says, "Should I let him go past me as well?" You can tell they're not happy, are they, letting their teammate go past them?
They're a precious bunch, Tommo, these drivers.
they are, Andy. Absolutely. No, look, sarcastic Lewis is the best Lewis. He's so much entertainment. Look, I think that Ferrari are in a tricky situation, because they've gone into this year, this final year of the regulations, in their current form. And Fred Vasseur, team principal, was saying, you know, we've changed 99% of the car going into this year. They had a really strong end to last season as well. A lot of expectation. I was predicting, you know, Ferrari to be on top by the end of the year, and they've been 4th quickest car on average so far this season. So the drivers are disappointed. Lewis has gone into a team he was expecting a more competitive package. Yeah, he's not getting it. Charles Leclerc's been there since 2019. You know, he's plenty good enough to win a world title, is Charles, when he's not getting the machinery underneath him either. So the drivers are frustrated. There's, you know, Lewis has got to learn communication with this new team. It's going to take time, and these radio messages you're learning live.
Yeah.
I love the scrutiny and spotlight.
I love
and
them.
it's going out on telly for everyone to listen to.
Nah, you're spot on, Tommy. They are fantastic.
Amazing.
Another wee bit of interesting news. Excuse me, Alpine have confirmed that Franco Colapinto will replace Jack Doohan for the next 5 race weekends. Well, team principal Oliver Oakes has resigned from immediate effect. I tell you what, it's never a dull moment. Give us a bit of insight into that, Tommo, please.
Oh, wow. I mean, we talk about Christian's the longest serving team principal at Red Bull. Alpine, the merry-go-round at that team in terms of the person in charge. And this isn't just, you know, to give like a football reference, you know, you've got a squad of 23 players or whatever. The manager comes in and it changes every season. You know, an F1 team, most of them have over 1,000 members of staff that need to be managed, right? A team principal, merry-go-round, unbeatable, Rossi, Safnauer, Bukowski, Famin, Oakes and Briatore is in charge. That's only since like 2020 as well. So yeah, Oakes leaving was a big shock, and I think we all jumped the gun a bit, thinking that this was Flavio Briatore's doing. He was brought in a couple of years back by CEO Luca Di Maio to oversee as a executive advisor. And I mean, all the news reports about Ollie Oakes' brother, there's a lot going on there behind the scenes that we do not know about. But obviously, yeah, Colapinto's come in. He had a huge, I mean, the support Colapinto was getting last season as the first Argentinian driver for a long time in the sport was incredible. He did a very good job at the start, was a bit crashy in the middle, but I think Briatore definitely spearheaded this, getting Franco in, and Jack Doohan only got 6 races. Got to shout out Jack. He was.
Yes.
He did a good job. He didn't do a great job. He did an okay job. I don't think he deserved to lose his seat, but also I think Franco Colapinto did enough last season to prove that he also deserves an opportunity. Both things can be right, I think.
Tom, I think we've just about covered all bases there, mate. You can
try my best.
Hey, you can go for a lie down now after that, mate. That was brilliant.
Thank you, Tommo.
Thanks for your time, pal.
Thank you very much.
On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app, and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.